Hey fam, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I don't know where you are, so it could be all of that, right? It's Facebook Live at 5 p.m. Pacific here with Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. So welcome. Um, you know the drill, right? We're going to do the preliminary say hello. I see you, Charles Harper. Share this on your timeline as you come on board, and make sure that others that you may know, hi Barry, are able to hear what we're going to be talking about today. So listen, there's a lot of stuff going on, and of course, as usual, I will be with this help of my sharp assistant, my manager Sir Charles. He'll be working in the background, doing that thing that he does, sharing this on my other Facebook pages, right, Charles? I'm going to put it on Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, and you, sir, can put it on Sergeant Dorsey Speaks if you would be so kind to do that. So you guys listen, I'm a one-man gang. I'm a hot mess. I am, doing everything. I have like 6 or 7 hats, and so I'm believing. I'm going to just go ahead and claim it right now that next year, 2019, I'll be needing a team. I'm going to be needing a team, y'all. Where's my camera? I'm looking all over the place. Don't mind me. I don't know where it is. So we're playing musical cameras right now, and I am doing something very different with my iPad. Back on the iPad, because that other camera, I think my computer, my laptop must not be in sync with it or something, because I'm not able to broadcast clearly. The picture is very pixelated on that other camera, and I'm not liking it. So unless and until either that or Uverse is the devil, AT&T is the devil, that could have a lot to do with it as well. I'm gonna have to sit down and have a fireside chat with AT&T and find out, do I need a better Ethernet cable? What is going on that my picture quality is so bad, if you will, through my laptop. And I pray to my God, everybody cross something while we're talking, that I don't have a situation where somebody interrupts me. I'm putting my phone on airplane mode right now, so nobody calls me and knocks me off and interrupts my transmission. But should this video get interrupted, know that I will start it right back up in a few minutes. So if you hear me, please come back. I need you back. Listen, I don't know about you. I mean, Saturday is December. This is bananas, right? But I am so ready for the holidays to be over, and I'll tell you why. Because 2019 is going to be, Chinese, they have like the year of the donkey and the year of the rooster. 2019 is absolutely going to be the year of Sergeant Dorsey, and I am fired up and ready to go, as my President 44 would say. There is so much going on behind the scenes. Coals are on the fireplace, not on the fireplace. Coals are being stacked up on the grill, right? Work with me, cooks. Coals are on the grill, stacked up, and hey, Charles, and we are about to have a real situation in terms of a fire. This thing is going to be bananas. I got some stuff going on, y'all. I am so excited about it. I asked everybody yesterday that I just needed 2 of you guys to stand in agreement with me yesterday, and thank you. My God is amazing. He opens doors that man cannot close, and so I am excited about what's coming in 2019, and I just want to hurry up and get her done. I want to get there so I can tell you about the kinds of things that are going to be going on in the life of Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. So, again, as you join me, share this on your timeline, and remember to subscribe if you haven't. Yesterday I had a new podcast drop. Sergeant Dorsey Speaks is my podcast, and you can listen to it on the platform of your choice. iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, iTunes, Google Podcasts. You guys who do the podcast thing, y'all know what the platforms are. Go to it and subscribe to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, and hashtag tell a friend, right? Tell a friend. So, listen, there's a couple of things that are going on right now. Hey, Aunt Mo, what's up? there's a couple of things going on right now that I just wanted to kind of share with you so that you could be looking and watching for. Botham Jean grand jury is handling their business right now. I think this has been going on for a couple of days. Not really sure what the consideration is, if the new DA over there in Dallas took that manslaughter charge, or if he prepared a murder case for the grand jury to consider. And I think I heard the attorney for the family today say that even if they were only given the manslaughter charge, the DA, Mr. Cruzo, may be able to go back, I don't know, don't quote me, may be able to go and amend the charge to murder, because understand, anything less than murder is an insult to the family and a slap in the face. So that's going on right now. Grand jury is making a determination as to what charge to bring, and I'm not going to say if any, because what charge to bring, they need to bring something. What charge to bring against Amber Geiger. And then, of course, once they bring that charge, it will be up to the prosecutor, DA Cruzo, to take this thing to trial. And then, of course, the hope and belief is that there will be a conviction that is commiserate with the crime of murder, in my mind. So pay attention to that. Botham Jean grand jury doing their thing. Now, I know yesterday, Mississippi, yeah, Mississippi. You guys had an opportunity to do something different out there, and you didn't. You didn't. And so, sometimes you just got to give the people what they want. And I'm not opposed to that. But, although that bat won, hey, Sean, sorry you're late. I'm glad you're here. Although that bat won over in Mississippi, there's good news. There's good news coming out of Mississippi, because the gentleman Espy, I think that's his name, who was running, invigorated people to the extent that there was some good stuff happening down ballot. That's why sometimes, that's why voting is so important, because it's not the main, event, if you will. It's also the down ballot things that are going on that are very important and that you should pay attention to. And so in Mississippi on yesterday, there was, let me see, what county is this now? Hinds County Circuit judges. There were two black ladies who won their runoff race in Hinds County Circuit Court. A lady by the name of Faye Peterson and another one by the name of Adrienne Wooten. Both won their races over there in Mississippi. So, that's important to have, judges who look like us and think like we do on sitting on the bench. And so these two ladies are now there because of that. And so when you understand that Mississippi, and I'm going to just give you some statistics because they're hurting down in Mississippi, but if you want to cut your nose to spite your face, works for me. Mississippi is right now ranked 50th, 50 out of 50 in income, college readiness, and health care. Mississippi is rated 48 in terms of their economy and 47 in terms of education and employment. So, cut your nose to spite your face if you want to. That's what's going on in Mississippi. But listen, what I would really like to know, folks, family, if I could just talk to you, I'd like to see you guys show that same kind of vigor and excitement that you do on Black Friday shopping. You know how y'all hurry up through Thanksgiving dinner so you can run to the mall Thursday night? Because I understand now Black Friday is not a day, it's actually a week. And if you guys could get as excited about Black Friday shopping as you do about voting for mayors who ultimately hire police chiefs, and for governors, and for folks who are running for various judicial offices, if you guys could have that kind of same stick-to-itness, I'm going to stand in line as long as I need to situation, we might be able to get some stuff done. You see what was able to happen midterm when folks got serious about voting and about people in places of position and authority. You've seen what you can do when you rally behind the cause of let's not allow Betty Shelby to teach that how to get away with murder in Baton Rouge. Everybody got together and expressed their concerns, and they pulled her off. Still much more work to be done over there with that Betty Shelby situation, so let's not get sidetracked. Let's stay focused, okay? I'm going to keep bringing up things that I've talked about before, and I'm going to talk about them again. Remember, I talk about things differently here on Facebook than I do on my podcast purposely. Yesterday on my podcast, I will say this because I think it's important to mention, is that I did a tribute, if you will, to the memory of Jordan Davis, the young man who was killed in Florida in the gas station by the white guy who said the music was too loud and came in and shot and killed him. He was ultimately convicted and is doing time. Jordan Davis, the 6-year anniversary of his death on November 23rd. And I know this to be true because I'm friends with Ron Davis, Jordan's dad, on Facebook, and he had put up a very moving tribute to his son. He couldn't understand at first why he was having a hard time sleeping, and then he realized November 23rd, 6 years ago, his son was shot and killed. And then on November 22nd, 4 years ago, 2014, Tamir Rice was shot and killed. So I did a little tribute on my podcast. I hope you'll stop by Sergeant Dorsey Speaks podcast and listen to the very moving, the very touching words that I read from Ron Davis on my podcast. So now I'm going to get into the stories that I wanted to talk to you about today. The first story that I want to talk about involves a young man by the name of Matthew Smith. And Matthew Smith is a male white in Kentucky. You know, I titled this podcast, or this broadcast, if you will, what happens when the good guy with the gun is black? Well, we already know what happens when the good guy with the gun is black. You get shot and killed, right? And in Kentucky, there was a male white by the name of Matthew Smith. And Matthew Smith had been involved in a situation where he was armed, and ultimately he was taken into custody. How? Without incident, because that's what they do for white people with guns. Matthew Smith in Kentucky was, I think he was intent on shooting up a polling site or something. I'm trying to bring my computer up so I can get this story straight as I'm telling you what was involved. Yeah, I see that, Charles. Yeah, in Kentucky, he had a cache of guns. He had 5 loaded weapons with him when he was actually stopped, and he was taken into custody without incident, like they do. And I mention this because, you know, last Thanksgiving there was a Mantic Bradford Jr. who was shot in the River Chase Mall in Alabama, and he had the legitimate right to have a gun in his weapon. And how he was involved in whatever was going on in the mall, I don't know. Remember, I said it's not important to me how he was involved, but he was a good guy with a gun. And we know that Jamil Roberson was another good guy with a gun in a nightclub, saved many lives possibly, and police responded, saw a black man with a gun, and shot and killed him. So what happens when the good guy with the gun is a black guy? You get shot and you get killed. So listen, you need to understand that, and you need to know that, and you need to keep that in mind. And as we have that talk with our children about what to do when they leave the house, we need to also have that talk with our family who is licensed to carry, and understand that just because you're licensed to do a thing that maybe you shouldn't, because it's not in your best interest, because you could fall victim to some foolishness, and it would be very difficult for your family later, after the fact, when you're dead and gone, to argue on your behalf. Because remember, great deference is given to a police officer's version, whether he's on duty or off duty, as in the case of the officer who shot and killed Mantic Bradford Jr. He was an off-duty officer saw a black man with a gun, didn't bother to take time and assess the situation, didn't figure out, you know, what was involved, didn't give any commands. And understand, I get that officers don't necessarily have to give commands, but you know, when they can take such care and caution when they're dealing with people like Matthew Smith in Kentucky, who had an AR-15, and Springfield Police Department had no problem taking this man into custody. He was sitting in his car. Kind of reminds me of the whole Philando Castile situation, right? This guy was sitting in his car and they got a phone call about a suspicious person. And when the officers got there, guess what? Matthew Smith, he was what? Uncooperative. He wasn't complying, y'all. And they almost turned him over on his back and just rubbed his tummy until he was willing to turn over his AR-15 rifle and the 5 or 6 other guns that he had in his possession, because he had a whole bunch of them. Yeah, that's what they did for Matthew Smith. So listen, just because you can carry a gun, you know, doesn't necessarily mean you should carry a gun for your own protection. Police officers understand that, you know, when we're off duty and we get stopped, and you guys know a couple of weeks ago I got stopped by the police. Thank you, Jesus. I was able to survive that police encounter. But, you know, I know never ever to confront an officer. I know not to become uncooperative. I know not to become too belligerent or ask too many questions. No harm, no foul, nothing wrong with living and being able to go home and file a complaint later on with the authorities about whatever it is that ultimately wound up happening in that encounter. So, good guy with a gun, if you're black, it's a problem. The other thing that is going on right now that's made national news and got a lot of attention, many of you may have seen this video that's going around, and it involves a young man by the name of Jerry Smith Jr. in Milwaukee. Now, this happened last year in 2017, and the video was just released with regards to the police officer's body cam video was just released. You know, I wonder, why does it take them so long to release the video? This happened August 31, 2017. So obviously the police department has had an entire year to try to craft a story that will make sense. And in this case, guess what? They couldn't craft one. They couldn't find a story that was going to make sense, because when you look at this video, what you see is not what the officer said. And what the officer said is that they confronted Jerry Smith Jr. on the rooftop of this complex, and that he was reaching for a gun behind an air conditioning unit. And it's clear when you see the video a year later that that air conditioning unit was at least 4 or 5 feet from where Jerry Smith was. And so, you know, unless he's a damn orangutan, I don't know how the heck they could even believe that anybody else would believe that this young man, if there were a gun, and there was not one, but if there were a gun, that he would have the ability to put his hands on it. And so they shot him. They did not kill Jerry Smith Jr. They did maim him. And now that they've been working on this story for a year, the 2 officers involved, Officer Finkley and Officer Stahl, were responding to some kind of a disturbance or call, and they were told that this man may have a gun, and of course he didn't. This young man had no criminal record. Now, I don't know why he was up on the roof, but you know, it's not a crime to be up on the roof. I don't know what the heck he was doing up there, and he was trying his best. Excuse me. He was trying his best to comply with the officer's orders, and they shot him. They shot him. And to add insult to injury, what else they did over there in Milwaukee is, rather than follow the law and have another outside entity investigate their police shooting, they investigated their own shooting. That's how they get down in Milwaukee. They investigated their own shooting, even though laws say that they can't. They did it. They came back with a finding when they adjudicated it. And you know what they found out? They found out that Officer Finkley was justified in the shooting. Now, Finkley started this foolishness, and then his partner Stahl heard shots, and then there was a situation of contagious fire. And by that I mean when an officer hears shots, and in this case, he don't know where the shots are coming from, so he just starts shooting. So now you got Finkley shooting. Stahl thinks it's the suspect because he's already made up his mind that he has a gun. And so then Stahl starts shooting. And they messed this kid up. He's, I believe, paralyzed now for the rest of his life. And so what the finding of the district attorney there in Milwaukee, District Attorney Kent Lovern, has concluded. The district attorney who, by the way, you guys elect. District Attorney Kent Lovern. Y'all might want to do a little research, do a little due diligence, and find out when Kent Lovern over there in Milwaukee is up for election again, so that you can help him off to retirement or another job. Okay? Kent Lovern, Deputy District Attorney over there in Chief Deputy District Attorney. So maybe he's not elected, maybe he's appointed since he's just a deputy. But he's the Chief Deputy District Attorney over Milwaukee, and he concluded a year later, because they had a whole year to figure this out, that the officers acted justifiably, acted in good faith. They acted in good faith, pursuant to their law enforcement duties, is what his letter said to the police chief. So you understand, when the police chief, Alfonso Morales, got this letter from the DA saying that they acted in good faith, everybody got in a big circle and did a group hug, because there's a symbiotic relationship, you understand that, between police departments and district attorneys, and that's why that should have been handled by an independent prosecutor, which is something that, you know, I advocate for, and I hope others do as well. Both officers are protected by what's called qualified immunity, which means because they were working within this shooting happened within the course and scope of their employment, you almost can't touch them. And that's why I'm always talking about the police officers' Bill of Rights. That's what it's called here in LA. I don't know if it's called the same thing in all other 18,000 police departments, but at the end of the day, there is a thing that allows officers protection and allows officers to skate when it comes to who's going to pay money to the family. You would think that taxpayers would really be tired of this by now, because taxpayers, you guys, are the ones who pay these civil settlements. It doesn't come out of the coffers of a police department. It doesn't even come from the city. It comes from taxpayer dollars. And so why communities and citizens who pay taxes aren't making a bigger deal and raising more cane, if you will, about these large settlements, because they don't have a problem, police departments don't have a problem just paying. They will pay. And I guess taxpayers, I guess you guys don't have a problem either, so I don't know. Let me know when y'all have had enough. Let me know when you get excited about your monies going, your tax dollars going towards civil settlements in these unlawful police shootings. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know if you can get excited about that like you do Black Friday or Cyber Monday. Right? So anyway, that's what's going on in Milwaukee. Young man shot and killed, didn't have a gun, didn't have a criminal record. They made up a story and they're sticking to it. But meanwhile, we know that in Milwaukee, much like over there in Hoover, we've seen examples of them not show restraint for Emantic, but show restraint in the cases of the Schaefer couple who stole an ATM and got into a shootout with the police and were taken into custody without incident because they're white. So meanwhile in Milwaukee, great restraint was shown for a white man by the name of Brandon Baker. Brandon Baker was 20 years old, and he too hoping that it will start back up. There we go. Camera's back. So still in Milwaukee, rooftop shooter, active shooter, white male, Brandon Baker, 20 years old, fired dozens of shots from the roof. Officers arrived. He's holding on to an assault-style rifle. And guess what? Those officers in Milwaukee, they managed to safely arrest him. He refused to put down the gun. Shots were being fired, taken into custody without incident. Brandon Baker had 3 handguns in his possession in addition to the rifle, and up on the rooftop they found 31 shell casings. That means he had fired at least 31 rounds. That's what they recovered in the case of Brandon Baker in Milwaukee. My couldn't those officers show that same kind of restraint? Why didn't they wrestle Jeremy Smith to the ground? I don't know. I don't know. So, anyway, we know that they can show restraint when they want to, because they do. Another story, viral video, probably seen it on your timeline. A young man by the name of Samir Ahmed, 23 years old. Samir Ahmed was arrested in Maryland, I believe. He was trying to help a neighbor who was in distress. Neighbor was, I think, drunk maybe. And Samir Ahmed went to the assistance of his neighbor, helped the neighbor get home. And at some point, the police were called, and I don't know exactly why the police were called, but they were. And when they got there, by now this drunk neighbor is at home. And they encounter Samir Ahmed. You know it didn't go well. You can hear on the video the neighbors yelling, "He lives here. He lives here. What are you doing?" They're yelling to the police officers that, you know, you got it wrong. And one of the officers turns and says, "You know what? We're not talking to you right now. I don't want to hear what you have to say right now." And directed their attention back to handing Samir Ahmed his ass, because that's what they did. They ultimately, you know, they arrested him. And you know that thing they arrested him for, right? You know that thing that police officers like to arrest you for when they don't have nothing else, but they put hands on you and they got to take you to jail for something, right? Interfering, resisting arrest. That's that thing that police officers do. And they know when they arrest you for interfering and resisting, they already know that it's going nowhere. They already know that. But they don't care, because they can't just leave you. They have to arrest you and take you to jail and put you through the process, the indignity of being booked and all of that. And I'm not going to even get into that, what that looks like. But, you know, and you'll get out of jail either that day, the next day, or if it's on a weekend, you'll be in there for 72 hours and you'll get out because it'll be a DA reject on Monday. They know that. They don't care. They arrested Samir and didn't want to hear what the neighbors were yelling to them in the midst of that arrest with regards to he was trying to do a good thing. He was being a good Samaritan. He was actually trying to help someone. They wanted no parts of that story, so they went ahead and did what they did. So, anyway, this is what we deal with. This is our life, and this is what goes on, and, you know, unfortunately, I don't see any end in sight. I just don't, but I continue to meet with you. Thank you to those who often share information with me and make me aware of stories that I may not have been aware of, like Samir Ahmed. Thank you for that. And so when I hear about them, I just come to you and talk to you in a real way about police policy and procedure, not believing that I'm going to change this for a minute, but I just want you to know, because I want you to be informed when you have an opportunity to confront a police chief and ask him in a community meeting, respectfully, of course. I'm not advocating that you know, do something that's going to put you in harm's way, so be clear. But, you know, ask the questions that I'm posing. You know, when I was on CNN over the weekend and I asked the questions, and I knew when I did that, I knew the Twitter mites were going to lose their shit, if I could just say it like that. When I was asking about that off-duty officer and whether or not he was in uniform, or was it readily identifiable that he was in uniform, and then some Twitter mite came right back and said that, you know, CNN is fake news because they got Sergeant Dorsey on there who's supposed to be an expert, and she's making all these statements. I wasn't making statements. I just asked a question. I just wanted to know, how do we know he was security if he's off duty? Because understand, just because you're off duty doesn't mean you're in uniform. I've worked plenty of off-duty jobs in 20 years. And some of them I was in uniform, and a whole bunch of them I wasn't in uniform. And some of them the city knew about, and a whole bunch of them the city didn't know about. So I wasn't making any blanket statement about the state of affairs there in the River Chase Mall, because I'm not there and I don't know police policies and procedures. I just ask the question like I do with other things, because I want folks who may be there on the ground to ask those questions. The same kind of questions that I asked about Amber Geiger entering Botham Jean's apartment. I don't know if she was really security for that complex. I think she was. So maybe somebody there could ask, was she security, and was she often masquerading as an on-duty officer wearing her Dallas Police Department uniform when she was really off-duty working as security for that apartment complex. So I say these things because as an LAPD insider, there's things that I know and little nuances that folks don't know and are hearing for the first time, and I know that you guys are, and I know that you appreciate it because I get great feedback from you on Facebook as well as YouTube. My YouTube community is amazing. Thank you, YouTube, for being so supportive, so encouraging of me with regards to what it is that I share with you weekly. So if I say something, I'm not making a blanket statement. I'm just putting the question out there because I just want to know. So as we wrap this up, I want to talk about what's going on right now in Chicago, because although the Laquan McDonald case, in terms of Laquan McDonald being murdered, is over, there is still more going on in Chicago with regards to Laquan McDonald. And while that initial case is over, they are still trying to put Laquan on trial. And right now there are officers who were involved in the cover-up and the lying that had been put forth, if you will, in terms of police reports and the like. There were several officers who lied. Are you surprised that police officers lie? There were several officers who lied about what Laquan McDonald was doing just before he was savagely shot. And so now these officers are on trial. Now this is not a jury trial, so know this. This is what's called a bench trial. That means that there's a judge. These officers knew better than to take this to a jury, particularly when you understand what happened with Van Dyke, right? So they weren't going to mess around with another jury. These officers are on trial, bench trial with a judge. Judge is listening and hearing everything, and he will ultimately make the decision. Now, you know, that causes me great concern, because anytime there's a bench trial and there's a judge and you don't know who the judge is, again, why voting matters, why not voting matters, you put these judges on the bench. And officers understand that, by and large, judges may be more sympathetic to their situation, and so these officers elected to have a bench trial. Remember some years ago, a couple of years ago, there was an officer who was on trial, and I forget the state, I think it was Cleveland, where he jumped up on the hood of a car after like so many hour vehicle pursuit, and there was like 65 cars involved, and at the end of the pursuit, this officer jumps up on the hood of the car, black couple driving, shoots through the windshield because he was afraid. That's what you do when you're scared. You jump on the hood of a car and then you shoot through the windshield so many times. However many rounds he had on him, that's how many he shot. And he took it to a bench trial, and the judge found it reasonable. He acquitted him, found him not guilty. So these officers are rolling the dice on this bench trial right now with conspiracy and obstruction of justice charges. That's what they're facing. And again, they're putting Laquan on trial. They're talking about his criminal history, things that he may or may not have been involved in, as if somehow that makes it okay to lie on a police report. And that's why, you guys, I talk so much about complying, because when something goes south, when you're not here, when you've been killed, and there's an opportunity for justice, whatever that means, for your family, when they're fighting on behalf of you, police departments dirty you up. The first thing they want to do is find some reason to say you were doing something that made you culpable in your own situation. And so that's what they're doing right now. They're saying that these officers acted justly. I don't know how you do that with a lie on a report, but they're saying that the officers acted justly because Laquan McDonald was A, B, C, D, and E. None of that has anything to do with anything. But that's the defense. And a judge who might be officer friendly may buy into that narrative, and these officers who lied may very well get off. Now, I know that Van Dyke is in jail. He was a shooter. But if these officers are able to get off, and I don't know if they've been terminated, but if they're still on the department and they're able to get their jobs back or get back in patrol, you understand the next time they're involved in a shooting, guess what? We lying, right? Because it worked last time, and even though they took us to court, we beat it, so why would we do anything differently? So understand I'm going to talk about this every time I can because it just drives me crazy, crazy, crazy. And I can only do so much. I can tell you what I know. I can tell you what I think. I can tell you what to ask. But if you're not willing to get involved, if you're not willing to roll up your sleeves and do the hard work, if you're not willing to get on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram with me and blast these police chiefs and these district attorneys and mayors and governors who all have social media accounts, then I'm not really sure you get to complain. So, that's it. Thanks for stopping by. Stay tuned. Keep your ear to the ground. Got some stuff going on I want to share with you. And the moment, the absolute moment I'm able to do that, I will. Oh, you guys remember last week or a couple of days ago, I was at this super secret location in downtown LA, right? I was doing some filming on a TV show that's going to be on BET next year in either last part of February, first part of March, last part of February for Black History Month. And it deals specifically with black community related issues and police. I can tell you that. So this thing that I was filming has to do with police and black community, and what can we do better, what's wrong, what do we need to fix, what do we need to know, and that will come out in February for part of Black History Month on BET. So can't tell you the title of it, can't tell you who's involved, but it's badass, and I'm just happy to have been a part of that. So I will see you guys on next Wednesday live, Facebook Live at 5. Thank you so much for stopping by, and as always, be good and be safe.